All right, well, it's time. The film is out. That's right. I'm talking about. You can see in the title above, Avengers: Age of Ultron. And there are no strings on me. All right, that's enough of that. You have to excuse if there's any audio in the background. There's some crazy hipsters drag racing outside. So, all right. This is a film, Avengers: Age of Ultron. Of course, I've reviewed tons of other films in the Marvel Universe. I didn't get an exclusive, like, one video review for the last two, Captain America, Winter Soldier, or Guardians of the Galaxy, so I'll recap those really quick here before we get to this one. Captain America, Winter Soldier it was dynamite. It was great. Russo brothers, when they were brought on board, I was like, I don't know who those people are. And then I'm like, and then I saw the film. I'm like, well, whoever these guys are, they can direct a film, that's for sure. And I don't think they should get the sole credit. The writers on the film, fantastic story, nice script, nice depth to make it like a '70s political thriller too, not just a Captain America movie. And the interaction between him and Black Widow, great stuff. Absolutely terrific film. One of the best. I think it was the best solo film since the first Iron Man, I think. And then, yeah, so I really enjoyed it. Really great film. Then there was Guardians of the Galaxy, and I'm in the minority here. I don't think it's a masterpiece by any means. I don't hate it. It's not a. It's just, to me. Whenever I watch it, all I see is what's the director's name again? I know it's Gunn, James Gunn. I feel like this is his Star Wars, like his version of Star Wars, and it's too much like Star Wars to me. I mean, you get like the one part where all the heroes are incarcerated, like captured, kind of like the Death Star, and there's like, especially for me, the last 30 minutes is like Return of the Jedi all over again. I mean, think about it. You have the space battle, you have you have this family confrontation between Gamora and the other chick. You have like the big bad guy, but you have to get all these other past this other person first, or these other people. Kind of like how you have to get past Vader to get to the Emperor. Yeah, I mean it was too much for me. I was like, I mean it's Star Wars. I mean Groot is Chewbacca, Rocket slash what's his name is Han Solo. I know I'm not big on this film, so everybody in the comment section's yelling at me. Who the characters are. Peter Quill, they're like Han Solo, and then Gamora is Princess Leia, and Drax, I guess, is Luke, kind of, lost his family and stuff, so it's like, come on, get a little more original with it, will you? I mean, it's nice to kind of make an homage to it, but it's when it comes in, like, there's one point, yeah, where the villain, whose name I totally forget, because he's not a great villain. And that's the other thing, is lots of people like that villain. I didn't. I mean, the guy was forgettable. I don't even remember his name. Yeah, I can't think of it. When he's talking to the one guy through a hologram, I'm like, that's like exactly per beat what well, I mean, in look wise, what the scene was in Empire Strikes Back when Vader's with the Emperor with the hologram. It's like, why? I mean, anyway, so it got too much to the point where it almost felt like a ripoff to me. But not say it was all bad. I mean, the humor in the film was pretty good, and whenever they would get into the depth of the character, like the scene, like toward the end when they had the Peter Quill character like open up and there's another cassette, like the volume 2, that was nice, and stuff like that. And I kind of want to see where they go with the sequel to that. But for me, the first one was a little too much. They crossed over from paying homage to almost ripping off. So that was my problem with that film. I still enjoyed it, but not great. Avengers: Age of Ultron is a disappointment compared to the first Avengers to me, because to me the first Avengers is the best that these Marvel films have gotten. But I still enjoy it. I mean, Age of Ultron was still a really great movie, though. I'm going to tell you my final score is 8 out of 10, just right out of the gates, to show you. Yeah, it's not a perfect film. It's not even a wonderful film. It's just a really good one. I liked it better than Guardians of the Galaxy. I didn't like it quite as much as the first Iron Man, or the second Captain America, or the first Avengers. So it ranks fourth with me with the Marvel films. Okay, so I think mostly everybody knows the story to this, right? Well, those people online who know about who follow this stuff. But yeah, basically the Avengers are back, and they've been dealing with what's left of Hydra, kind of, and Tony Stark says, who's back in the Iron Man suit right away, which we don't get an explanation for that, which is kind of confusing. I'll get to that in a minute, but he says, why don't we just, create something so that we don't have to all work together? Why don't we just put a suit of armor around the world, as he says? And he creates Ultron, which turns out to be a huge mistake. Huge mistake. And Ultron goes out and eventually gets to the point where he and his two accomplices, the Maximoff twins, start to really, really, really destroy the team. At least emotionally, maybe not physically, but have them turning on each other, and they're having visions, and they're it's basically taking them out, and so it's up to them to stop Ultron before he tries anything on a global extinction level. Yeah. Anyway, so there were two. I'm going to start with the negatives here for the film. My big problem with the film is, man, and a lot of critics have been saying it's overstuffed. I don't think it's quite to the point where it's overstuffed yet. I feel like if Infinity Wars, which is going to be the next time we get all these characters together again, and we'll probably have more by then, that'll be a 2-part film. So if they handle that right, then it'll be fine. But that to me, because we're guessing at that point we're going to have the 6 core Avengers back. We're going to have this is geez, I don't know how many characters we'll have. I was going to try to count all of them, but it's like I don't know if I can even do that off the top of my head. But we might have like upwards of 20 main characters on screen at one point. That to me is starting to get to the level of overstuffed. So if they can get around that and not do that, or at least to the point where we're not looking at 20 characters on screen at one point trying to fight what we guess is Thanos at the end, then I think they'll be all right. But to me, this is almost overstuffed, but for me, not quite. My big problem with the film is the story. The story feels like this is the first Avengers again. It's got almost all the same beats. You bring the team together, even though it's true, it's the first action sequence we get in this film is kind of similar to the, well, not like, okay, I don't know where I'm going with this. I don't know. Once we get them all together, then there's beats like the end fight. I think is where I'm going with. Shit, I'm failing here. Okay, my big problem was the end fight, okay? I was going to say beat by... We do have a couple more beats, like we have, in the first film we had, like, the scene of... I can't think of anything. Crap. Sorry, I'm kind of fresh. I saw the film last night. It was kind of late, so I'm definitely going to see it again, because I had to leave early, and I couldn't see the mid-credits scene or whatever, so I haven't seen whatever that is. Yeah, it was kind of a later showing. It wasn't a midnight screening. It was like an 11:15, 11:30 screening. So I didn't get out of there till after 2 o'clock in the morning. So I was a little. Okay. So where I'm going with this, as far as the same beats, if you look back on the first Avengers movie, that end battle scene, to me, yeah, that was my, I don't know if I made this clear enough in my best of 2012 video when I said Avengers was number 9, one of my problems was the ending. Well, the whole end fight being like 40 minutes, it's almost like a lazy ending. And here it's, well, maybe it was like 35 minutes this time, but still it was kind of like putting the ending on autopilot at the end. It's like, yeah, we'll just it's like the people are sitting around in a room behind the scenes and saying, okay, how do we end the film? And somebody says, let's just throw an army at them, and then that'll take care of our last act. And, it's okay to do that, because I get it in the first film, definitely, when you have Loki just by himself, isn't quite able to crush the Avengers yet, so let's make more, let's outnumber them. So, best way to do that's an army. Same with Ultron here. It's like, well, I haven't defeated him yet, I'll get an army this time, that'll defeat him. So I get the point of that, and I get, you're building scale-wise, you start small and by the end you're big. All that being said, though, geez, I was yawning at points, and not because it was late, but because it was like, oh, another crushed Ultron drone, and you get that in the trailers. I'm not spoiling anything, and again, with these videos where I'm fresh off the movie, I don't spoil anything. If it's like years later and the movie's came out like 8 years ago, yeah, sure, then everything's up for grabs. But yeah, since this just came out technically last night, and today's the day it's actually out, yeah, I won't spoil anything for you. So don't worry if you haven't seen it yet. If you're watching this, nope, no spoilers here, no worries. Um, but the ending kind of had me yawning because it's like, oh, another Ultron drone did. And yeah, again, it wasn't because it was late, but it was just because, yeah. But the thing about it is, the first Avengers film, it got to that point where it's like, oh, another dead alien, except they started to come up with original ways to show that. Like they would have Hawkeye, not even look and shoot a bad guy. And like Hulk and Thor when they took down the big alien worm thingy. There were moments like that right at the point where it was starting to get boring. It's like, okay, now, and then we're energized again. Here, it gets to that point, and they don't do anything original anymore. There's one sequence in particular in the end fight where all the heroes are gathered around in a circle trying to fend off something. I won't say what it is, but they're trying to fend off something, and it's like quick cuts, like less, like a second or less of like Black Widow punching somebody, and then we cut to Iron Man blasting somebody, and we cut to Vision blasting somebody with his vision thingies, laser, whatever. And it's like, they're on screen so briefly that I can't remember any individual moments. Like, I'm just assuming here in these examples, I'm like, and now I'm thinking, I'm like, actually, did Black Widow punch somebody? I don't know. It's cut so fast that you don't really have time to react to it. And especially, yeah, at the end, it started to get to the point with me where there's so much CGI and so much computer stuff that it started to remind me of the Star Wars prequels, which is not a good thing. Not a good... See, there's those drag racers again. Yeah, it's not a good thing when you're reminding me of Star Wars prequels here. Not great. Yeah, that was a problem I had. Another problem I had, and I know it might sound like a nitpicky thing, but those pesky Russian accents on the twins. I know several people have explained it to me who are a little more in knowledge of like comics universe. I'm not. I'm more in knowledge of what they've done so far in this film universe they're setting up, or I should say playing out. They've already set it up, and that is, I don't know if they're necessary, and they aren't well done. Not terrific, especially what's the girl's name? Elizabeth Olsen, her character, Scarlet Witch. That I don't like that accent. If they could shed that somehow in the any other film she comes up in, if any, I'm not going to say who or if anybody doesn't make it out of this one, but if they can change that in future films, or for her brother, I mean, sure, go ahead, do it. But I know it won't make sense, but it's like, I don't know if anybody will complain. Where are those Russian accents, huh? Why'd you get rid of them? They were so great. No, they weren't. Yeah, any Marvel fanboy that does that, I'm just gonna punch them in the face and say, no, they're not. They're not like bad, and it's a good thing because they're not like the main characters, which helps. They're mainly background for the first 2/3 of the film, and then kind of in the last third, then they get a little bit more to do. But even then, most of the time they keep their mouths shut, so it's not like a huge problem. Okay, another one, and this isn't really spoilery, not really, but in the beginning of the film, we have this big action sequence of the Avengers doing a huge raid on somebody, Hydra. Okay, I think I said that. That's not a spoiler by any means. I mean, half the frickin' battle's in the trailer, so I'm not gonna... and the trailers and TV spots. And all the cool stuff in the battle is in the trailers and TV spots, so... But right away, one of the first characters we see is Iron Man in his Iron Man suit. And I'm like, wait a minute. Iron Man 3 ended with Tony destroying all his suits and stuff. So why the hell... Like, what's the explanation? How did he get... When did he decide to go back to being Iron Man, and when did he build more suits? I don't know. There's no explanation for it. We're just supposed to go with it. and I was confused. That was a problem for me. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. There was a problem I did have, but then I've been watching a couple other reviews today, and somebody brought up a point that made me say, "Oh, well, that actually makes sense." There's a point where Tony's saying to Bruce, and we see it in the trailer, where he's like, talking about how they should and have to create Ultron, and I'm like, and there's a line in the movie where he says, "Let's not bring this up to anybody else," and I'm like, is that really Tony talking? I mean, this is the guy who's like co-leading the Avengers here. I mean, is 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 that really what he just said? I mean, would he say that? I don't think he would. But then again, and then somebody brought it up. It's like, well, you think about it. He did have he did have the one advantage over everybody else. You could call it advantage, you could call it disadvantage of when he was sending the rocket up into space at the end of the first Avengers movie. He's the only one who saw like the big worms and stuff coming down. So he's the only one who like saw the portal really. Everybody else just kind of knows, oh look, there was a big hole in the sky, and that's it. So it kind of makes sense that he'd be the one that's pro for it, but it's kind of still a little bit of a complaint, but still, anyways. And then one last thing, there's a part in the movie toward the end, or I guess like middle of the second act, later second act, where an Avenger gets captured by Ultron, and it goes absolutely nowhere. As in, he captures him or her, I won't say who it is, and basically he holds them there and doesn't do anything. He doesn't harm them, he doesn't kill them, he doesn't do anything. He talks to them once and then locks them up, and then that's it. I guess the goal is so that they can let their team members know where they're at, so that they know where Ultron's at. But it could have been as simple as Ultron contacting them and saying, "Hey, Avengers, let's end this where it all began," because I guess that's where it takes place. I guess, and it's like it could have been as easy as that. Add in a line, that's it. Rewrite it. But instead, there's like a 5-minute thing there that they could have cut out easily. And that's another problem I have is this film does feel like it's a little too long. Like they could have cut out a good 10, maybe 15 minutes of the film, and it probably would have helped. Because it does, especially that end battle. It starts to get a little monotonous and then they do change it up and things, like when it gets toward the very end of the battle. So that's good. But otherwise, it almost sometimes feels like a copy-paste of the first ending of the first Avengers. So that's a complaint I have. All right. And those are the big ones for me. That's what knocked the score down. But there are some really awesome things about this movie. Really awesome. So now that I've spent almost half this review probably complaining, let's talk about the good stuff. First of all, the thing that had me really, really excited about the film was Vision. And I won't say how late or how early in the film he comes in, but when he comes in, he steals every scene he's in. Whenever he's in a scene, my eyes go right to him, because he's spectacular. He is spectacular. He is awesome. Paul Bettany really, I mean, he's been playing Jarvis, basically doing like a voiceover for the first 4 films he's been in. Now he gets his due. Now he gets to step in front of the camera and be an actual living character and a walking, talking character. And Vision is awesome. he's one of the best parts of the whole movie. He's almost like in X-Men Days of Future Past, Quicksilver. Like Quicksilver would steal every scene he's in. Vision's about that good. Speaking of which, this Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, they're kind of characters that at the beginning I was kind of like, those accents are pretty pesky, but by the end I started to actually enjoy their characters, and they finally, once they got more to do, because like I said, the first 2/3 of the movie, they're kind of puppets to Ultron, as we see in the trailers, but once they get something to actually do, then we kind of learn a little bit more about their characters, then it's like, okay, now I'm kind of on board with them, especially Quicksilver. He had a couple of really funny moments. Now, is he as good as the one in X-Men? No. No. This one, he's fine. He's good. He has funny moments, but he doesn't, like I said, for 2/3 of the movie, he's background. Same with Scarlet Witch. She's pretty good. I really like her outfit in the end, though. Okay. Side note. Anyways, but Very revealing, very nice, Elizabeth. Okay, enough of that creepy stuff. Let's move on. Action scenes. The action sequences are really well set up, and the set pieces are really nice. Like, there's one part that takes place late in the second act in Seoul, South Korea, and I won't say who's involved, but I'll say Captain America's involved. We see his little bit in the trailers where he's like almost getting crushed by cars and stuff. That sequence is fun and action-packed, and it reminded me of Winter Soldier because it had a little bit more of the realism that Winter Soldier brought, mainly because certain characters who are a little more fiction don't show up, i.e. Hulk. Okay, that's fine. But yeah, anyways, it had, like, there was fun stuff in it. And the Hulkbuster fight, really fun stuff. And the Hulkbuster armor itself and that whole sequence is really great. Really great. The humor in the film is spot on. Really funny lines. Hawkeye gets some really nice character development, and he gets some funny-ass lines. Him and his interactions with the other characters are pretty funny. I mean, I was actually one of the guys who thought Hawkeye was really awesome in the first movie, even though he was a drone for the first two-thirds of it. By the end of it, he kind of, by the end, he finally got personality into him. When I was talking about beats, that's an example. There we go. See? The first, it's like the first film all over again, except we have Ultron this time. Speaking of which, James Spader as Ultron, bravo. Really, really great character. He added to it just in his voice work. I think he did do like a motion capture type thing too, I think. And he just really brought this character to life, at least in just in the voice. I can't, like I said, I don't know for sure if he did any of the if there was motion capture, if it was all CGI. But his voice work was just bravo. And Ultron is sarcastic, and he's witty, and he's funny, and he's charming, and he's also at times really threatening. It's one of the best, if not the best, villain we've had so far in these Marvel films. And I can tell Joss Whedon was very interested in Ultron because there's actually one more complaint I have to talk about, and that is I feel like the film, since it does have all these characters, I don't feel like we have an equal amount of screen time for all of them. Like, for example, Thor kind of disappears in the middle act, and he does something, and what he does is really stupid, by the way, and it's another thing that could have been cut. Like Captain America, he's kind of background for the first third of the movie, and then in the second and third act, then he gets a little bit more to do. Iron Man, he kind of disappears for part of the third act, and well, not disappears, but like he kind of becomes background again. And for the first act, he's especially important. For the second act, he gets some more stuff to do. But in the last third, Iron Man's kind of like, yeah, I'm with you guys. Yeah, I'm just flying around doing stuff. Yeah, like I said, the twins are not very important. Vision, yeah, not very important until he's introduced. I won't say when. But like, let's see if I covered everybody. Yeah, Hawkeye he's background for the first third, and then he's brought in more. Black Widow's kind of background in the first and third act, and then gets the middle section where she really shines. And I like how we got into her backstory a little bit, and her relationship with Banner makes sense actually. There's some good stuff. We see in one of the trailers there's a part where she's like, going against his hand like that kind of or whatever. And of course the Hulk's got this huge, hulking hand. Get it? And it's their way to, and as we see, there was actually a clip release that showed the whole scene. That's how they calm the Hulk down. And I'm like, that actually makes sense, because, I mean, a female touch to a man, or Hulk's man, that would change his emotions, really, from anger to what the hell. So, and it makes sense then also from that they would kind of get a little chemistry going there. Yeah. Makes sense. And it doesn't really add like a whole new dimension to the film or anything, but it's a nice way to bring your characters together and actually have them communicate and grow on each other. And there's a great scene with Tony and Cap when they're chopping wood at one point. I think they released that clip too. Really good scene that developed them a little bit and kind of sets the seeds for what's happening next, which is a civil war. Yeah. I won't tell you how much they get into that, but they kind of start a little bit to plant the seeds. I'll say that. Yeah, like I said, yeah, the Thor stuff. Yeah, when he like basically is not in the middle part of the film because he's doing his vision quest or like spirit journey or whatever the hell you want to call it. It's stupid. Could have been cut. Not doesn't feel very necessary to me. I guess. Well, I mean, obviously they would have had to explain where he's been and stuff because there's a key thing that he does when he comes back. And so yeah, I mean, you could write that in though. You could make it just a short little speech and then move on. You know, cut 10 minutes out of the film right there, or like 5 minutes or whatever the length would be. But anyways, yeah. So yeah, an imbalance of characters, and another thing too with that is I don't get the feeling that any one of the Avengers is the lead character this time. Like in the first movie, we were pretty confident Cap's the main character, even though Tony has all the funny banter and he gets a lot of speeches and stuff. Cap is the main character in the first film. Here, I can't point to any one of them and say there's your lead character, because like they all kind of get a third or an act where they're not very important, where they're total background. And that's I think that's where the critics are saying overstuffed. But to me, it's a minor complaint, really, because, you know, if all the Avengers are the main characters, you can make that work, actually. And I think Joss Whedon, when he was writing, he was somewhat successful in that. Somewhat. I mean, sure, it would have been nice to identify with Captain America again, like we did in the first film, but he's more adjusted now, so we can't, you know, identify with him the exact same way. Anyways, yeah. Oh, another thing, the Andy Serkis character, I'm not going to say who he is because there's still some people who don't want to know. He was not actually, at first I thought he was kind of going a little over the top, but he actually had some pretty good moments. Very brief part in the film, but when he was on screen, yeah, he was pretty good. Yeah, and then when they bring in all the old characters that are not core members of the Avengers, like Rhodey and Falcon and stuff, yeah, nice to see them, even if it's just for a brief, like, little cameo thing. Yeah. So, yeah, and I really want to see the Vision get a lot more to do in any other films he might appear in. And the same goes, I think, with the twins, if they can maybe get rid of those accents. Anyways, yeah, so. Okay, have I done enough rambling now? Yeah, so I gave it an 8 out of 10. It's a fun film, you know. Especially, I have to say this, if you're like into this Marvel Universe and you know what's going on and you love it, I think you'll enjoy this film, no matter what. But if you're like a casual fan, then you'll probably be asking yourself, you know, isn't this the first film all over again? Or you might say, I don't quite know what's happening here and there, and that'll happen. But yeah, it's a pretty enjoyable film. I had a good time with it. I was laughing and I was wowing at certain moments. I mean, there's especially one moment where a character kind of has like a secret ability, kind of more or less, like a secret to him that they reveal, and it's like, oh wow. Wow, that changes a lot of that changes my perspective on a couple of things with this character. I'm not going to say who it is, but yeah, it like literally everybody in the audience was gasping because they were like that kind of blows my mind. Really cool stuff here and there, stuff like that. That's really nice. And like I said, I kind of touched on this briefly, but it was really nice to get Hawkeye some development in there. Like, there's one part where we kind of figure out a little bit of his personal life and kind of a little background into that, and that to me was fantastic. You know, to actually see like a human connection at one point, it was great. And I kind of wish they would do that a little bit more in the future films with any other characters that they can. Okay, one last thing I want to mention here. I've just thought of it. The very ending, like the last like 2 or 3 minutes, kind of had me scratching my head. A little bit, because one character does something that makes sense, and then I'm like, okay, I kind of figure out why he's not, you know, why he's doing what he's doing, and then there's another character that does something too, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense, you know, there's a reason for it, a really good reason for it, and then there's another character who does something similar, and you're like, why? Why? I mean, if you've seen the film, you probably know what I'm talking about, and I'm not going to lay it out there because it's a total spoiler, but one character does, like, two characters do a very similar thing, and it involves their, you know, with the Avengers, and it's like, it's like, why are you doing that? I understand why this guy or this girl is doing it, but why are you doing it? I mean, I can understand because of what they've done in the film and what if they feel responsible for something or whatnot, but I didn't get that sense that they were, like they helped, distract and try to destroy Ultron. Okay. Does anybody really think that Ultron wins in the end? But anyways, you helped us fight Ultron. Why? It's like, I don't know. But I do like the setup for where they're going potentially with a Civil War Avengers team. And I'm not gonna. And there's been speculation on whether or not all the core members come back, whether they die or they quit or what happens. But and I won't tell you if any new people join as core members, but I like where they're going. If there are, wink, wink. All right, not a total spoiler, but anyways, yeah, I think that's about all I have to say. Good stuff, really good stuff here and there. Especially when in those set pieces. Some of those action scenes, like I said, Hulkbuster and the Soul scene, really good stuff. Really good stuff. Yeah. Okay, I've rambled long enough. This has gone on half an hour. 8 out of 10. Really enjoyable film. If you're a Marvel fan, you'll really love it. If you're even a casual fan, I think you'll have fun with it at least. You might be scratching your head. You might be realizing the connections between this one and the first one. You might be saying, well, haven't we kind of seen this already? True, you have, but they do get around it sometimes, and they do have some, especially in the villain, some really original ideas, and in Vision, and in the new characters when they bring them in, really fun stuff. All right, sign off. Okay, next thing is probably Mad Max is out in 2 weeks. I'll be seeing that. Anything else? I want to see Ex Machina. If I get around to that in the next week or so, I might get a review of that up too. So, more stuff coming, guys. In the meantime, enjoy Avengers Age of Ultron as it breaks every record in the book this weekend. Probably, I looked up the figures a couple minutes before I started the video, and it looks like it's almost going to break Harry Potter's record for best opening day, just solo opening day. And it does look like it will pass the first Avengers for best weekend, 3-day weekend total. So, yeah, all right. Yep, have fun seeing Avengers, guys.